no one is there to stay the same. And that is very evident. And sometimes that's frustrating because like, you're like, can we just like relax for just like a sec?
Welcome to Cravings Control for Fat Loss. I'm your host, Laura Cavallo, former sugar binger, overeater, and yo-yo dieter turned fat loss and cravings coach for hundreds of busy women. Here at Cravings Control for Fat Loss, I'll be sharing mindset, movement, and metabolism strategies for those who are ready to ditch the fat diet cycle and slim down without counting calories, tracking points, or giving up any of the foods they love. Get ready to embrace progress over perfection, grace over guilt, and bring curiosity and learning to the inevitable ups and downs of your life. Expect a decrease in your cravings while seeing and feeling an improvement in how you look, how you feel, and your overall quality of life. I am so excited you're here, boo. Let's get started. A couple months ago, Molly Buster came to visit me in New York from Kansas, where she moved after leaving Los Angeles in 2021. I had left the year before in 2020. We talked a lot about the challenges we're currently facing in our new cities and in this next chapter of our individual lives. Today, Molly and I open up and get personal about our unanticipated social struggles after leaving Los Angeles, the city where we both began our fitness careers and pursued our own health and business goals. More than that, we hope to drive home the point of how important community and social support truly is. Most importantly, we share some tips, strategies, and tools to help you find and create your own community if you're struggling just as we are. Welcome to another episode of Cravings Control for Fat Loss. My name is Laura Cavallo, your cravings and fat loss coach. And today I have welcomed back Molly Buster to the show. Welcome, Molly.
Hi.
Today we're chatting about social support in the way of health and fitness and kind of the challenges that some women might face within their lives of sharing that journey with others and how to navigate it and maybe some strategies. And this topic came up because Molly came to New York and visited me, and we had 4 days to talk about lots of stuff and catch up. We used to live together in Los Angeles, and now we're in completely separate cities, and we talked about this a pretty fair amount. So I was like, we should record a podcast episode on this. I'm sure other women are struggling with this. So here we are.
I'm excited about it.
I know. So do you think about LA a lot? I think about LA a lot. I'm like, I miss it in some ways.
I definitely miss it. I think, and when people ask me what I miss the most, I think the environment is what I miss the most, just on many fronts, just the city, but also gym life. I feel like we were both so immersed. Like we spent like 12 hours a day at the gym.
Yeah.
Like at least 5 days a week.
Right. Yes. At least.
So and I also feel like it was a time, but just in our friend group, in our life, like the time that we're in, that will just like never exist again. I'm sure people feel that way about a lot of different times of their life, but it's like, I feel like that all of those things together will never be recreated probably in my lifetime. I'll have a lot of different things of those, but never that one. Right. I think that's what I think about the most.
Yeah. Lots of fun times. So many fun times. Yeah. And for me, LA was really where I came into my own as an adult, I would say. Like I went there when I was 28 and I changed careers. I went from liquor sales in New York to personal training. And our first gym was Santa Monica on the beach. It's like you could see the ocean from the outside, training platform. And I remember like the first day, it's like we got a scavenger hunt and it was like, meet 3 new friends. And I like immediately came up to you at the front desk. I was like, hey, I'm Laura. And I just felt like that was like the beginning of our friendship. And so Molly and I worked at Equinox together I worked there for a year. Molly stayed longer. And then I went independent shortly thereafter. And even as an independent trainer working on my own, I still felt like so lonely in my day-to-day because I wasn't in that gym community despite, still being friends and hanging out with you all the time. And then Molly and I went into management roles with Equinox, and that was like a really big challenge, which is probably a whole other podcast conversation. But I have to agree with you. The environment in LA, you said something when you visited me, is like the conversations are different there in LA. Like people are really motivated for self-development, personal growth. There's a lot of people that are coming with innovative ideas. There's people in tech, there's people in fashion, there's people in art, there's people in performance and fitness. And because of the nature of California and the vibe it gives off, people are conscious about being active and being outdoors, and they want to spend time outdoors, and they play paddle tennis and they're rollerblading or they're exercising or they're tanning. And so I really do miss that general vibe, that culture, that environment of being there. I miss it a lot.
It's like, yeah, there's an energy. I feel like no one is there to stay the same. And that is very evident. And sometimes that's frustrating because like you're like, can we just like relax for just like a sec? But everyone is moving. They're chasing something, whether that be physically or work-wise. It's like everyone is on that trajectory. And I brought this up a lot where it's like, you walk out your door and you're like, I don't want to start the day. And you walk out your door and you're like, 15 people are jogging and someone's on their bike. So it's just like in your face all the time. And just by seeing it and being part of it, you're more inclined to do it,
Yes. Yep.
I mean, it's like the grand version of you are who you hang out with,
100%. 100%. Like you're the culmination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So yeah, we both worked in gyms in LA. So I think that is also something that differs from us now. We're both independent. We work independently for ourselves. And so we do a lot of online coaching. I know that you might see you do see some clients in person. You kind of have a community now.
I see a few. Yeah, I have a little bit of a community. Like I say, I teach a women's group, and when that's running, we meet 2 times a week. I also train some high schoolers for strength and conditioning in the morning. So I have some groups that I get to go and be a part of, but I don't really get to be a part of it, if that makes sense. I get to sideline it because I'm coaching it. So I miss having some physical communities that I get to be a participant and not the creator. So being the creator is awesome, but also being a participant is fun and having no responsibilities. So I miss that part and are still trying to find that community and what that looks like.
Right. Do you feel like you just fell into your community in LA, or do you feel like you had to work to cultivate any parts of it?
I think, and you probably feel the same, maybe. I feel like we really, the nature of being a new trainer is you live at the gym to build your clients. So the product of that is when you live at the gym, you're living at the gym with all your other trainers. So it's like when you think about our best, like 3 of my best friends I trained with at Santa Monica. So it's like you're getting to spend a lot of quality time with people who are interested in the same thing as you. And so I feel like that really helped create my community because I had like-minded people right away, where my husband, for example, really struggled to find his community in our first 2 years in LA. Like, because if your work does not provide that social community, and like we were living in a new city, and so it's just me, it's like, where do I find that?
Yeah.
As an individual, where would I go to create a community if it doesn't just automatically exist in my work?
Yeah.
So
that's true. And something that I was just reminded of as you were talking about that was you doing acrobatics on the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh, which is awesome.
And with Sam too. So Sam is a trainer that we worked with at Equinox and one of Molly's really good friends. And we worked together. So Molly and Sam connected, and they were both from the Midwest-ish area and bonded on that. But then this bond, this friendship of theirs took them to do more like, what is it, like aerobics, acrobatics?
Yeah. So we did some acro yoga stuff.
Yoga.
Sam was a yell leader, so we did some of that. We also did some trapeze. I mean, we just dabbled. We dabbled.
I know.
In the circus arts.
You did. And you're still like doing some gymnastic stuff now.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So that was something that was like you connected to like the community by default, but then you and Sam found these interests, and then you kind of went off and explored other things too with him that brought you a lot of joy and purpose. And we went to one of your trapeze shows. Like,
it was fun. Yeah. So I think that our work environment gave us a good starting pool of finding community, both in the fitness community, but also in a personal sense. I mean, we were one of, I think sometimes I know Santa Monica had at least 36 trainers. So, I mean, that's a pretty big number of like-minded-ish people. Yeah. That was also rotating quite a bit. So
yes. Yeah. And you mentioned your husband earlier. You guys have been married how long?
10 years.
Wow.
I know.
Congrats. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you talked about him struggling to find his community. Is he someone that shares any sort of like, obviously you're a trainer. Mm-hmm. I know that that's not his profession. In terms of his health and fitness, has it been side by side with yours? Has there been a disconnect, or just not really interest for him at all?
Yeah. So Josh and I started dating when we were teenagers. So I always say, in Josh's defense, like, he wasn't marrying a fitness professional. Like, I became that like way after like we were together, you know? Josh played sports in high school, but I would say it definitely wasn't his identity. Like, he wasn't like, this is who I am. It's like something he did because everyone did it and it was fun, you know? So I feel like in our adult life, there have been seasons where Josh has been more active, but it's definitely not his thing. And he has always worked more blue collar jobs that are physical. So I think there's that element too. It's like you're physically working all day and you're like, do I want to go to the gym?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say health and fitness is not necessarily like his jam. Would I say that's a permanent position? No. I think he has interest in it. It's just never come to full fruition. I think that never to the place where it like makes sense for it to be his own journey. Like every time he's been on it, it's like we've been going together or we've been working out in a friend group, and that's been great. But like when that little group disperses, he's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. It's not
it's
like
a general vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like a main value system in terms of like, this is something that's like top of the list for me to take care of and do today. And that's totally fine. Right. And that's part of what this podcast is about, is sharing some of our own like dynamics within our relationships with family and friends, and how we navigate that, but where we find that community to kind of help us stay connected and engaged.
Yeah. And I think a partnership, for any other women that are like going through this, I think a partnership is an interesting place when you like maybe disalign. I feel like it's taken a while for Josh and I to find our like true feng shui. And so I would say, even if you're not a trainer, I feel like the thing that has been good for us is it was important for me to learn that I can't be Josh's trainer, like, period. So like I can support him when he's trying to do things, but me pressuring him or trying to make him do what I'm doing, like, is never going to work for our personal relationship. And so I feel like the sooner I learned that, like, you know, we work with clients all the time. Like, he's not going to be ready till he's ready.
Right. Yeah.
I can't make
until
him
he
ready.
Wants to. Until he wants to.
And so
if he wants to.
And so like when I could accept that, then it made the friction of us being on two different health journeys a lot easier. Right. So when he is wanting to try something, I can be supportive, but I don't need to like pester him or like make him feel like he should be doing something. You know, I think it's important to keep any lifestyle change in as positive place as you can.
Totally. Yeah. And I agree, because I remember becoming a trainer and being like, well, this is my ideal boyfriend. Like, he's going to be fit and he's going to exercise. We're going to share all these things together. And that hasn't always necessarily been the case in the men that I've dated in the past. And it's been a point of contention at some points. But most recently, when I started dating Lou a year and a half ago, it was things that I shared with him, like, more in the sense of, you don't have to sit and exercise with me 6 days a week. But what I do hope that you value in some way is your health in general, in terms of some of your habits, and whether it's related to nutrition or drinking or taking care of your body or even your mental health. For me, I fell in love with someone like on more of like the emotional and like the friendship side. Like, Lou and I were connected through Instagram, and then we like talked for a month before we even met in person. So that base was there. And so a lot of those like qualifications that I had wanted in a partner, like, I want him to look like this, I want him to have this, I want him to have that job, or look like all that stuff didn't even end up mattering when I finally met him and we had that chemistry and we connected. So I learned to, similar to what you said, is I can't force anyone to change, nor do I want to, because I want any change to be a personal decision. And it's okay for us to have differences in our lifestyle. It's okay that I have this part of my life and my fitness and my health and my gym routine. He doesn't have to have that. We don't have to share everything. But for me, it is still important that my partner does value health in some way, and that they do find that that's important for them.
Yeah.
Especially since we're aging and we're going to be 40 soon.
Well, and that's what I was saying. I think that has like, one, in my own health journey, like fitness journey, I feel like that shift has happened for me as I've entered my 30s, where it's like, yes, I have body goals or strength goals. Those are always kind of rotating depending on what, but I feel like my health has become way more of a goal than I ever thought about it in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like, I just want to be healthy. I'm like, cool. But let's do something else,
yeah.
And now it makes a lot of sense. And I think as you're building a life with someone and you are aging and you're looking at your parents aging and you're just like, if we're in this together, then I actually need you to like make it the duration, it's like, it's not about what size your jeans are. Like we are past that. It is about me not being alone,
Yeah. I don't want to outlive you,
Right. So I think, and I don't know, I just actually had this thought. I've never talked to Josh about it, so I can't speak for him, but I feel like if you are someone potentially that just was never really motivated by the gym or like losing weight, or like you just like, I'm fine, I like work a blue collar job, like I'm happy with where I am, then I feel like you might not find a drive to do fitness until you do feel like it's attached to your health. Like I feel like there might have to be a switch for you somewhere. You're like, oh, I might actually have to live in this body until I'm 80. Like I maybe need to start doing some tune-ups.
Start paying attention to some things.
Right. And I think that, when that happens for people is different. I also think, when we talk about when you have a partner, when you talk about self-help stuff in general, I might listen to a podcast and then I come home that day, I'm like, my whole view has changed. Like my life has changed. What I'm doing day to day has changed. And Josh is like, I didn't listen to this podcast. Like I ain't changing nothing. And I feel like that's kind of like how it is with fitness. Sometimes it's like, we're on this thing and we're like, everyone should be doing it. But like, not everyone's interested in like going ham on fitness all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people have different interests. Like me, I'm never going to run a marathon. It doesn't interest me. You could say it's like the best thing for my health. I'd be like, cool. Like I'll run a mile here and there.
Right.
Just to keep it like, like not everyone is going to love the process as much as like you want them to,
Right. Yeah. I like the process a lot because I'm competitive, you know, and like I have the athlete background. And so I'm like, well, fuck that. I'm going to be like the best version of myself within this, like as much as I can to a certain extent on certain things. Right. And I think like that's could be to a fault, right? Because in the past, my competitive personality was my driver for pushing my body to extremes, not just in health, but also with food and also with drugs and also with alcohol, and being like, well, I can handle this, or I can do this, or I can stay up all night, or I can abuse my body and I can still get up and do everything. So to a fault, for sure.
For me, that same idea has also shot myself in the foot. I say, because like if I can't be the best or I can't do it the way I want to, then I just won't do it at all. Like I like definitely fallen into those patterns with like programming or injuries, like specifically. It's like, well, then what's the point? Like if I can't squat how I want to or whatever it is. Where I feel like I've just started to get to that place where people are like, oh yeah, I just like trying to maintain my health through this hard season. I'm like, oh, okay. What's that like? Like I get it now. I'm getting it now.
Yes.
Like better than I would have 5 years ago.
Totally. And I think it's because we've been through, yes, we're more mature and we know what it's like to have the aches and pains of possibly getting older and being like, oh, that doesn't feel great. I'm going to, I'm fine doing just sort of like the bare minimum right now to feel okay. But also because we've been through so much ups and downs in regards to nutrition and exercise and the all or nothing mentality and the dieting and the pressure. And we've been able to settle into a more balanced approach without having it have to be about fat loss or we look, to your point earlier. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure. I mean, I would be lying if I said that I didn't wish that my boyfriend was maybe a little bit more active with me or shared at least some of my interests in terms of activity or more of the healthy lifestyle. It's also like some things that I perceive as like healthy and good for me, he does other things that he perceives healthy and good for him. So there's actually a bit of a disconnect, but we also have different definitions of things. Like for me, I eat a certain way. I eat Satisful nutrition. He's more of a carnivore diet guy. And for him, that works. And that's what feels good for him and his body. And for me, I'm like, where's your vegetables? Like you need carbs for, you need carbs for energy. You know, he's like, but this works for me, you know?
Right.
And Lou's also very active, you know, in terms of his job. Has a very physical job. He's constantly working on the house. He's getting equipment on and off and he's on his feet and he's doing this. And, you know, he's had injuries at work. So his body's also not functioning as it could have or how good it has in the past. So I also know that he has those limitations, and sometimes he reaches his threshold in ways that I don't view as like active or healthy. But for him, he is executing those things in the way that feels best for him. But yeah, like, do I wish that maybe one day he'd be like, hey, babe, take me through a session. Like, I want to, like, you know, my lower back has been really bothering me. Like, I really want to work on my core strength. Like, could you just take me like through one workout per week? I feel like, oh my God, yes, I would love to.
Like, I would love to.
You know?
Yeah, I do think there, you know, when we were talking about like you are the equivalent of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? And so I think particularly when you've had a lifestyle change like we have, like Josh and I have always spent a lot of time together, but I was also spending a lot of time with my lifting partners and, you know, other trainers and whatever. So I will say that a challenge in this new routine is I do have to be more creative, I think, of where I put my workouts and things I want to do, knowing that we're not doing them together, you know? And like, I think that's the part, I think that's what when you're like, oh, would it be nice if my partner was, yes. But I think more so because it would make my goals easier and not because he has any responsibility to make my goals easier.
Yeah.
But I know if I don't do my workouts Monday through Friday, like in those days, Saturday morning, I technically could do a workout, but Josh isn't going to do a workout. And I would rather drink coffee and talk to Josh on Saturday morning than me have to run off and do my workout. So I feel like how I structure things is different because we aren't on that train together. So I need to make sure I'm putting things for my train where they're actually going to happen, you know? And so I think that's the part that I think I would really miss or think would be nice is that, you know? So yeah. But I do think that like for people that are dealing with that, like I think what works well for Josh and I is I always try to communicate what it is I'm working on, because usually your partner wants to be supportive. So if they know what you're working on or what you're trying to avoid or fit in, they can be more supportive. And sometimes like when I used to struggle more with like certain foods being in the house, like you just have to ask for help. Like you literally can't bring that home because I'll eat it. You'll be gone and I'll eat it like all day. Yeah. But, you know, I have a better relationship with that now, but there were definitely times where like you can't stop and bring home a pint of ice cream because if you don't eat it, I will eat it. You know? Right. So like those two things can help that a lot.
Yeah. And to summarize what we were talking about earlier is being okay with you and your partner being on different paths and having different interests, and, you know, finding ways that if you can, that there is some commonality in things that you want to spend time doing. Like I'll ask Lou to go on walks with me. So we'll take the dog to the dog park and we'll go on walks, and he likes those and he enjoys those. He won't do them all the time, but it's something that we both enjoy doing. So it may not be the workout in the gym or, you know, cooking together or whatever it might be, but we do find at least maybe one or two things that we can kind of share that I can take him along on my journey a little bit too.
Yeah.
2024 is here, and I'm currently accepting applications for my one-on-one coaching program, The Cravings Cure. The Cravings Cure guarantees up to 10 pounds and 10 inches of fat loss in 3 months' time, while reducing your cravings by up to 70% without counting a single point, tracking a single calorie, or measuring or eliminating any of the foods that you love. If you're ready for a sustainable approach to your nutrition, you finally want to get control of your cravings, and you want a more long-term solution to your fat loss goals that you can maintain all year long, the Cravings Cure is for you. My proven Slim System strategies are made to fit with your unique lifestyle demands, your schedule, and your preferences so that it feels more intuitive, more effortless, and easier for you to apply. If this sounds like something you're ready for, or you just want to learn more about, follow the link below to hear from our past clients and see their amazing results. I cannot wait to work with you in 2024. So we talked about living in LA and the community and the environment and how much that impacted us. And now we've both moved away from LA, and I started the podcast with how much I miss it, which is strange for me to say because I left for a reason and I knew it wasn't my forever home. But I do miss that environment a lot and what it brought out in me and who I was connected to. But now we're both living in cities where we don't have much community. You have some. Mm-hmm. I'm splitting my time between Florida and New York doing this long distance relationship. And so I've really struggled to feel connected at all, both in Florida, where my permanent address is, and then in New York, in my hometown that I grew up in. And I'm just like having to find ways to build that community in, whether it's going on walks with like local friends. I don't have anyone that works out here that I go and train with at the gym that is maybe on my level of training. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm having to find my community online. And when I'm already online, I feel there's a certain level of disconnection in some ways, right? There's something that you just don't get from being online as you do in person. So I don't know if you have any suggestions for our listeners for maybe being in a more rural area or, you know, again, not having grown up with the culture of fitness and health in your community and kind of how you've had to cultivate that. Maybe you can share a little bit how you got connected to some of your current communities.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like, you know, some of the groups that I talked about that I work with, my women's group, I created that group. So I think, and this is true for any person, not just a fitness professional. I feel like if there really isn't the group you're looking for, isn't like this the phrase, then you need to create it. So, and it doesn't have to be starting a women's weightlifting class like I did. I did that because I've always dreamed that it would be cool. But there's other women in the community that have gotten together and are trying to start pickleball, or like gotten together and they walk every whatever. So it's like just go and try and start what it is you're looking for if you feel like you can. And it doesn't have to be crazy. The other thing, I lift at a gym a couple days a week. It's like a drive, so I don't lift there every day. But where traditionally when you deal with clients all day and you go to the gym, you want to put on your headphones and not talk to anyone, I try to at least interact with one person while I'm there. And I'm like, maybe after a course of a time, I might have friends.
Yeah.
Because it's easy not to, and everyone, but like if you have those moments to interact with the front desk or whatever, it can create more of a sense of community where you are working out, even if they're not your lifting partner, even if you don't see them every time. But then there's some validity to whether you go do something. And then I think also for some of my clients that live rural, you know, as their coach, I feel like I am their lifting community, you know, and which, yes, I'm not the equivalent of an entire gym knowing your name, but just having someone who knows, like, did I do my workout today? Like, are they going to see my numbers? Can I text them and tell them when I did? Like, just having someone who is invested in what you're doing. I think that's the thing I miss most is like, you know, even if the times I didn't have a lifting partner, people were like, well, what did you lift today? What was your workout today? What was what? Just like your coworkers or whatever. And when you feel like it doesn't matter to anyone, whether or not something happens, it's easy to not have it be as much of a priority community-wise. Yeah. So I definitely, in the physical sense, I feel like those are the ways I went about having some sort of community. I don't think it will ever feel like being a trainer in a gym. Like, you know, like that's just a different vibe, you know, but I feel like it's the best I can do at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. You're doing a great job. I love seeing all your posts about, you know, lifting at 6 a.m. with the women and seeing everyone show up. And you've got a competition this weekend. You're taking 5 women to, which is incredible. And I think your point about connecting to people in a gym setting, whether it's saying hi to one person or saying hi to the front desk person or taking a class and, you know, introducing yourself to someone. I found this gym in Florida. It's about, without traffic, it's 10 minutes. With traffic, it's like 30 minutes. But it's such a fun gym. It's like functional training where they just have created such an incredible community. Like they do events on the weekends. They do like a Thanksgiving football thing. Yeah. They are constantly giving back to the community. They're really invested in kids development and youth development in the North Miami area. And so if you can find a gym that does community or team building things, that could also be a way into a community that's already up and running and getting yourself a little bit more connected in that way. So when you are vetting gyms, ask like, do you do any like team events once per week? Can I like bring a friend once per week? Do you offer any sort of like things like that allow me to be connected more to a community too? So I think that's important.
And I think too, like, and maybe this is more, it's definitely more me, but I know it's a lot of people, like you kind of really have to like challenge yourself to put yourself out there a little bit. I think, you know, like you said, we work online, so I do see clients all day. I think it's obviously a little different being online than in person. But then also with social media and stuff, we have this sense of false connection. And so then you're well, I've been like seeing people and connecting with people all day, but like you really haven't. So it makes you like not want to, but like the difference of like actually having a conversation with someone at the gym can be uplifting and inspiring, and like creating those, like forcing yourself to reach out even when you think you don't need to. Mm-hmm. You need to. Yes, after those things, I'm always like, oh my gosh, why don't I do that more?
Yeah, like, you know. I know. In the way of social media, you could potentially geolocate other women that are in your area that are into fitness and lifting. I don't know how you would do that, through hashtags.
Maybe through hashtags. You also could, you know, depending on where you are, a lot of people, if they post any fitness things, they will maybe tag the gym. So you could go to what the gym is tagged in, and you could probably find other people that lift at the gym, like at a minimum, you know?
Yes. Or even Facebook groups. Like if you have Facebook groups based on like your town, like, you know, Bayshore women's lifting, you may be able to do a little bit of research on Facebook groups with that.
Absolutely.
That's a good idea. I should do that for when I'm in Florida. Yeah. Look at me go. So we talked a little bit about partnerships. We talked about our environment and our like gym communities. We didn't talk at all about family and sort of how we grew up in regards to like being surrounded by healthy habits or not so healthy habits, and then how we're kind of navigating that now. I know you're much more close to your family geographically now than you were obviously living in Los Angeles, and you live in a more small rural community, Midwest culture, food, vibes, activities. And I grew up in a like immigrant household where my family came over from Italy, and physical laborers, like blue collar work and things like that. Well, not physical laborers, but like blue collar work. So there was a lot of physical activity day to day, but not a lot of attention on like movement, exercise, physical health, until maybe a poor medical prognosis where, you know, my grandpa got diagnosed with lung cancer. He stopped smoking after, 50 years of smoking. Same thing with my grandma. And so it was more of like a reactive than, proactive and preventative approach. And I just think it's also part of like the generation that I grew up in, or like our grandparents grew up in, and all that. So how has your experience been from like growing up as a kid and then moving back to Kansas now?
Yeah, I feel like just by nature, growing up in a small community, you do feel like a lot of physical activity that is available is geared towards our high school students and below. So, everyone's going to sports games. They have lifting year round of some sort, whatever. Then there's not a lot of community. So like I, as a teenager, outside of maybe my female coaches, and a couple women of the community that were runners, I didn't know any women who were working out for like fitness. Like I just it just wasn't something that was like modeled. Now to say that they weren't in their basement, at home, all of that, like I'm sure there were some, but it wasn't something that was like out. So I didn't feel like I saw like a picture of that, I guess, growing up. And I grew up in a kind of a dieting or not dieting household, like all in or all out. So that was kind of my background. I will say, being back, I'm way more aware of how many women, specifically because I mostly work with women, are trying to like work out, better themselves, work on themselves. And I think the nature sometimes of smaller communities is that people do that alone in silence, like everyone's suffering alone. And I feel like because we have a group that gets together now, like I'm able to hear more women talk about their experiences and share. And, you know, grateful that I'm able to have created a pathway that at least they can come work on that together if they choose, you know, and hopefully we'll have more of those things as we move forward. So I think I'm a lot more, I guess, aware of people's want to have a physical lifestyle, even if it's not traditional of where we're like of rural communities. And then I think personally, when it comes to food, emotional eating, I am in a 180% different place than I was when I left here to start. So I feel like having flexible nutrition, like obviously the holidays are like a great time to reflect on that, where it's like, go to Thanksgiving, eat the foods that you love, and then go back to normal life. Like, I mean, myself used to be guilty of this, and I know there's a lot of people that struggle with this. Like, it might derail you mentally, emotionally, and nutritionally for weeks, something like Thanksgiving. I know that sounds like dramatic, but it's not. If someone struggles with emotional eating or compulsive eating, they might go to Thanksgiving and then they might struggle for the next 3 weeks, you know? Yeah. And I just feel like I'm in a much different place than I used to be when I would come home for the holidays or when I was growing up here, where it really can be, I had a lot of things I don't normally eat over a 4-day period. And you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
And it feels like refreshing to like feel that way after years of not feeling that way.
Totally. I agree with you. I almost forget the previous version of myself because I've been so far removed from it, but it reminds me like why I do what I do so that I can help other women feel like this and be able to get back on track, you know, on Monday or Sunday after Thanksgiving. Yeah. I had a similar experience to you. Like, I was born and raised Italian, and like out of the womb, you are playing like soccer. You're like, you're going to be a soccer player. So like I grew up playing sports. I wasn't very good at soccer. My grandfather was a referee, so he was active in that sense. But yeah, there wasn't really women in my community that I saw like going out on walks or strength training or being physically fit unless they were athletes. So I grew up playing soccer, and then I played lacrosse, and there was focus on strength training, not in high school for me, but more in college. And yeah, I went from like being sort of, you know, being active in high school to like lifting a ton of weight in college and putting on all of this muscle, putting on all of this weight because I was also eating a ton. So growing up, it was more just athletic background. And then when I come back now, there's a lot more women I see taking care of themselves, going on walks, being in the gym, being around the dumbbells and the weight area, which is awesome. But I also think the nature of the weather in New York is challenging. And I know that you experience that in Kansas. It's like, I don't want to go outside and go for a walk when it's 30 degrees. It's like been 30 degrees the last few days. Like, I've been inside. I could go to the gym, right? I could easily go to the gym. I've been sick, so I haven't done that. But I think, you know, geographical location also impacts it.
I think there are legitimate weather barriers of entry when you live somewhere that has true seasons.
Oh, true seasons.
Yeah. Like LA is like endless summer.
Endless.
So it's like, a walk is accessible pretty much any day, but the 10 days it maybe rains a year.
Yes.
And even then, it's not raining all day.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's cold temps, rain, snow, sleet. Those are real barriers to entry on a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And I remember getting into fitness in my late 20s. And I don't know if you experienced this at all, but, you know, trying to find a bit more. I mean, I was definitely in the fad dieting realm for 5 years, but like getting up and trying to go to the gym, you know, on Thanksgiving or like eat a little bit more healthy or satisful. I did get a little pushback from my family, whether it was like teasing comments or, you know, maybe people saying things because maybe they were insecure about their own journey with their weight or with their relationship with food. And so initially it was kind of hard for me to feel confident in my healthy lifestyle around my family because I did feel so much like the black sheep. But after the first like Thanksgiving, then like Christmas became easier, right? And then like the next holiday became a little easier. So it's kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid at first. It's just kind of like putting your foot down, being like, I'm fine. I don't need a third slice of pie. It's fine. Like, I don't need to have the 10th cocktail right now. And then pretty soon people start to understand that there's kind of like a new version of you, like this new identity that you're trying to create. And it stops being like, oh, she's having a salad, to like, oh, do you want me, like, I'm going to the grocery store, like, do you want me to pick up a salad? It's like, it stops being like this negative thing to more of like an acceptance thing too.
Yeah. And I think too, some of that also, I think as we change and develop into whatever this healthy lifestyle is, like, a lot of our clients are on this journey to have a healthy lifestyle. They're trying to go from where they were to try to make this something that they don't have to like continue to gain and lose, right? They want to be more permanent. And I think that as that becomes more of who you are, then the holidays with family doesn't seem as much pushback, because it's not like, well, why are you only eating that? Well, I'm dieting. It's this thing I'm doing. It's this thing I'm doing right now until I can't do it anymore. Versus, I just don't want that. Like it's a very different conversation, I think, than what you have people like, do you want this slice of pie? No, I just don't want it. Like, I really just don't want it, because you become that person over time where like you truly don't want it, or you are like, oh, I'll do a little piece. And then, or, like it becomes more of your identity versus something you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. We should have a whole episode on like values and identity and how that kind of will drive your habits and behaviors. And you can kind of see if your goals and things are really aligned in terms of what you value and who you want to become. It's another episode, another time.
I know. So many episodes.
We hit a lot of points on sort of the social support aspect and community building. Is there anything else that we missed or that we want to bring back up?
We don't have to go into it because it could also, again, be another episode. But I do think as, two coaches that work a lot with moms and like working moms, I think a lot of the things that come up sometimes when we are doing nutrition change is like, how can I cook for my family and not have to make 2 different meals and like all of that. And because neither of us are moms, I don't want to like say that I have it figured out, because I definitely do not. But I think some of the things that have worked well for some of my moms is like, if they're trying to increase protein and veggies, then like that's going to be the bulk of the meal. And then if they want to add in some cheesy potatoes or whatever, like we're doing Midwest cooking, right?
Yes, go for
but
it.
Like cheesy potatoes, and it's like, then they can just limit their portion so that their plate still looks how they want it, but they didn't have to cook a bunch of different stuff.
Yes.
Or just for the whole family, if they're doing like percentages, let's say we are doing some sort of casserole situation, then they maybe up the protein they would normally put in, cut down a little bit on the carbs or fat they would normally put in, and now it just has new percentages. Yeah. And just making smaller changes like that. And then it's been really fun for my moms that have kids of a certain age, like mid-elementary school, because I feel like they're actually teaching their kids better behaviors and thought processes around food. Yes. And I've seen it in some where like then the kids ask for different things, and so I think that I feel like that's the gift that keeps giving. I mean, so many of us have like inherited our beliefs on food or body image from our families. So I think it's been fun to see my moms communicate how they're communicating to their daughters about lifting and that kind of thing. So I think education is always a brilliant tool for anyone.
Yes. Yeah. And you bring up a good point about take it a step further. Share your health and fitness goals with your family and the people you spend the most time with. And I call this bringing people along on your journey, because it's really easy to be unhealthy in our society. It's easy to default to the quick dinners. It's easy to sit on the couch after a stressful day. It's easy to numb ourselves with alcohol and drugs and TV and sex and all the things.
I would go as far to say that healthy lifestyle is actually like most people, like living a healthy lifestyle is more abnormal than an unhealthy lifestyle at this point. It's like more bizarre when someone has a healthy lifestyle or nutrition.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
Yeah. And so it takes courage to be able to say like, this is what I'm doing, or these are my goals. And instead of us always feeling like we have to adapt to other people and what other people are eating, or, what other people want to do one day, or, people want to sit on the couch and watch movies all day, I encourage my clients to to invite people to come along on your journey, which means sharing what your goals are with people, giving them an opportunity to support you, giving them an opportunity to ask questions, just throwing it into their brain that like, oh, this is what mom is doing, or this is what my best friend is doing, or this is what my sister is doing, or this is what my mom is doing. These are their goals. And, you know, it's up to them, obviously, if they want to support you. And hopefully they do. They may not know how. They may have questions. They may make you feel there might be some contention in some ways, not a reflection of you, but maybe a reflection of kind of maybe what they're going through. But, you know, give people an opportunity to join you and support you. And you do that by letting them know what your goals are and what you need support with. So as an example, I have a client who's working on just eating slower, right? She eats really fast. So she gets up really full, and eventually we're going to work on fat loss. And so she needs to learn how to slow down. She needs to learn how to feel hungry. And so we were working on it just yesterday, and she goes, yeah, my husband always comments that I eat so fast. I'm like, okay, well, let's ask him to support us in a different way. Let's share with your husband that, you know, babe, I'm trying to like eat a little bit slower and take my time with my meals. Maybe instead of eating in 5 minutes, I'm going to try and eat in 10 minutes. And like, I'd really love for like your support and recognition in this as I move along in a positive way. And like, tell your kids, like, mommy's trying to eat a little bit slower so she can enjoy her food. Give them an opportunity to support you. Give them an opportunity to observe these new habits that you're trying to implement, and for you to put that in their brain so that they can start to be observant and aware. And so I would encourage you to let people know that are in your closest circle, whether it's coworkers or family or friends, what you're up to and what you're working on.
And most people do want to support you. I think you'll find, you know, I mean,
yeah.
And the ones that don't, like kind of to your point, if there is something, you know, I think kind of like when someone goes sober, they say when you're communicating your health goal, it makes someone else kind of confront their own feelings and thoughts on said topic, whether that be alcohol in that case, or if it's food, you know, and it says more about them than it does about you. And maybe just the relationship you do or don't have or should have with that person, you know, if they can't be supportive of your journey. So,
yeah. And so with that, I also like to pair it with like, and I've said this already, but I want to reiterate it because I want anyone listening to gain a sense of confidence in this routine and lifestyle, and know that, yes, you might feel like the black sheep, you might feel like the odd man out, but just try and find the courage to go to the gym and say hi to someone. Find the courage to share your health and fitness goals with a coworker. You know, find the courage to tell your husband or your wife or your partner, like, this is my fitness goal for the next 6 weeks. Like, look at my program. I'm so excited. Even if they're not necessarily aligned, give them that opportunity. It gets easier with time as you share more and as you get more comfortable in your routine and lifestyle too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this was an awesome conversation. I didn't really know where it was going to go. We didn't have an outline, but I think we did a pretty good job.
I think so too. That was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, everyone. Molly's Instagram will be linked below if you want to connect with her. And if you are interested in hearing us speak or me speak on any other topics on the podcast, I would love to know what you want me to share more of. Hit me up on Instagram, click the link below, and let me know what you want me to share next. And happy holidays. Thanks for being on, Molly. You're welcome back anytime.
Yes, anytime.
Yay.